This Sunday, we have the story of Naaman the leper who is healed by Elisha as he bathes in the Jordan River 7 times. And we have the story of the 10 lepers who Jesus heals when they ask for his pity, for his mercy, one of which comes back, a Samaritan, to give praise and honor to God. So, taking that set of stories, I was very divided this week on which way to go with the reflection, because I've been reflecting on it in 2 kind of different ways all week long. One is the focus on gratitude, the gratitude of this one who returns to Jesus, and the ways that we live or forget to live in a spirit of gratitude in our lives, and the blessings that gratitude bring, because gratitude is at its heart our relationship with God, our response to God's love, our entering into a deeper relationship with God who loves us. That reflection I'm going to leave to you with the help of the late Jesuit Father John Kavanaugh, who wrote a beautiful reflection years ago, and I've linked to that in the description if you just want to take a moment and read his reflection. I think it'll give you something to pray about as the week goes on, or maybe even during the Sunday homily if you get bored. The second direction, I think, is more authentic to what Jesus was doing and what he was teaching in this moment, and even to what it says that this Syrian, Naaman, was given God's gifts poured out on him, and how that changed his life. It was Friday. I was meeting with the Archbishop. It was business, but he always takes some time to ask about the parish, what's going on, and then usually to give some advice on how I should make things better or grow. Subtle but caring, because he does care much about our parish community and has great hopes for us. And so we were talking, as the conversation kind of came to an end, about an organization that's trying to help strengthen parishes. It has a lot of gifts and qualities, but also some weaknesses. And he, almost like giving them some grace, the benefit of the doubt, said, yeah, it's probably because the people leading it are from another part of the country, and they're used to thinking of church as a place where the good people gather. And I said, don't worry, Archbishop. Like in my parish, we are not a gathering of good people. We are a gathering of sinners. Their pastor first among them. And there's a recognition, I hope, of that in our life together. During the week, I met with a couple who's been working very hard to get their marriage in the church, and it's been a long and complex and difficult process for them. But like, this was a moment of moving forward as we were able to finalize and turn in some annulment paperwork that had to be done. And the husband told me, he said, yeah, we're just trying to fix this. It's like we're an icon of sin in the parish. And I said, oh my gosh, I want a copy of that icon. Somebody needs to write that icon for me. An icon of sin. Because Jesus was constantly making his way to those who felt themselves overwhelmed by sin, giving them the opportunity to receive love and redemption as a gift that they could say thank you for, restoring them, renewing them, bringing them back into community. Leprosy in the Old Testament comes from the Levitican laws on purity, and it's not Hansen's disease. We're sure of that. I never understood why people made such a big deal, commentators made such a big deal about the fact that this isn't what we understand to be leprosy, this contagious disease that made people live in Malachi. this this leprosy predated the arrival of that Indian branch of leprosy to the Middle East. The archaeological evidence, it's clear that whatever they were calling leprosy in Jesus's day was not Hansen's disease. And ultimately, in the Levitican laws, this isn't about contagion, which is a science that wasn't developed till much later. It was about impurity. It was about dirty. It was about icky, right? And so in the Leviticus, in the law of Leviticus, there's these rules about purity, about ritual purity, of washing certain things, of not mixing what you put in your mouth, of not eating impure, dirty things, of not, of after certain dirty actions, having to separate yourself from the community and then bathe and then make an offering in order to be reinstated. And among those dirty things were these scaly lesions that grew on your skin. And in order to not make the rest of the community dirty, impure with your messiness that was spiritual as much as physical, you were excluded. And excluded, much like somebody had just given childbirth, much like someone who had come into contact with human blood, much like someone who had eaten the wrong foods. So these ritual purity laws in Leviticus weren't always enforced throughout Judaism. But in Jesus's day, there's the rise of this movement of the Pharisees, this lay reform movement in the face of a really lax set of priests who are getting along way too well with the occupying Romans. This group of lay reformers demand especially things like ritual purity, because that's their vision of a way to become a holy people before God. Jesus comes and says the opposite. Jesus is constantly reaching out to those who were ritually impure and not able to gather and not able to be in the temple or even in the synagogue. And so those who are sent to his manger are shepherds, definitely among the ritually impure. He is constantly making inroads with tax collectors and prostitutes, definitely ritually impure people who were not allowed in temple. He regularly encounters those with leprosy who are like iconically excluded and icky and impure, right? And he heals them, and he restores them, not just their skin. He restores their dignity. He restores them to community. Now, in today's story, 9 who were restored could go to the temple and offer the temple sacrifice for their healing and be restored completely to the community. One of them, a Samaritan, even though his skin is now restored, is still an outsider, is still incapable of going to the temple and offering sacrifice and worshiping God. And so he comes to Jesus. And with Jesus, he's connected, invited, welcomed. He becomes a disciple, a follower. He becomes part of a community. And that's the community that is church at its best. Not a community of those who have managed to attain certain rules of ritual purity in order to be better, in order to deserve, or no, we're a community of sinners, of icky people with complications and struggles and broken lives who experience together God pouring his gracious love, inviting us, connecting us, restoring us. And for that, we give thanks and praise to God. In the story of Naaman, so this wealthy Syrian, with lots of resources that he's brought along, tries to give the prophet Elisha his gifts. once he's been healed. Like to buy off the healing, to make things even. And Alicia says, no. God loved you more than your cloaks and your gold. Like, you can't give this to me and make it even. You can't buy this. I won't take your gifts. And that resulted in Naaman not just having clean skin, but Naaman being given a place at the table of faith. And he asks for dirt, is good Israeli dirt, to bring home so that there he can worship the one true God, the God of Israel. The generosity and the love that a community of sinners, of outsiders, requires is the very transformation that God wants to work in our lives. It's not a series of transactions. It's generosity and love that transforms our lives and invites us to be part of a community that is able to transform other lives, not a community of holy people, holy because God has set us aside and called us and transformed us, but a community of sinners, grateful for the holiness that God pours into our lives.